everybody, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the Mountainside Homestead in Golden, BC, where it is cold. It's the beginning of February and we're getting an Arctic blast of air, and so our temperatures have been dipping below minus 20 degrees Celsius, and I thought this is a very good time to sort of give a pep talk about how you can have success in short, harsh growing conditions. So today I'm going to focus on those cold crop champions for short season success. I know I'm not the only one who's planning for my garden in the new year, and I thought this might be helpful for those of us who live in the zone 3 and below area. I do homestead in 2 different provinces here in BC and also in Alberta, and both of these are zone 3, and I've had tons of experience working with these, and I hope this video can help you adapt as well so that you can start to have more success in a short, harsh conditions. Okay, I'm just going to touch on some of these today. I will go into more details in future videos, and I also have other videos about a lot of these crops already, but I thought at this point when people are buying seeds, this might be a good time to tell you about some general stuff. And please don't hesitate to ask questions about any of these plants, because I've been lucky enough to grow them myself, and I can give you a few tips if you want. First off, my favorite category of plants for the harsh conditions are my hardy edible perennials. Edible perennials are wonderful because you only have to plant them once and they come back over and over again. While they do come back over and over again, many of these plants do require a year or 2 to establish themselves, but they're worth the wait because they are plants that can handle the harsh conditions better than some of us can. Okay. Some of my favorites from this category are sorrel. I adore sorrel because it is an edible perennial you can eat in that first year. It's one of the first greens that you see every year. It's got a lovely tart taste, and there's so many ways that you can use it. I've been growing it for a few years now, and I love this stuff. I plant so much of it even every year. I'm extending my patches of it in both of my homesteads because it really is a wonderful plant, and if you haven't tried it yet, you really have to. It's shocking how flavorful it is. Rhubarb. I know, you love it or you hate it, but I'm one of those ones who love it. I am a rhubarb fanatic for a very good reason. This is a plant that takes a licking and keeps on ticking. It's almost impossible to kill this stuff. And believe it or not, there are tons of ways that you can use it. It's also one of the first things that you see come up in the spring, and it's an early crop. And then if you keep picking it, you can use it well into the later part of the season as well. So that's a plant that I think every gardener in a harsh condition can have, because even if you don't like to eat it, it is a lovely plant as well, even just for the sheer beauty of it and the ability to help it amp up your compost pile. Perennial onions or walking onions, those are wonderful. They're a green that comes up, one of the first things that you're going to see every year. And if you haven't tried that, please do keep an eye out for this wacky, wonderful plant, because it is a great one to have in your garden, both aesthetically, because it's very strange looking, and it's also delicious. Greens are wonderful. You may decide you never want to grow green onions again because of them. And also those little edible bulbs on the top are good too. Lovage. This is another one of those love it and hate it plants, but it's another one you can't kill. You really only need one lovage plant for a family, but it's kind of got a celery anise kind of mix, and actually I like to use the seeds as well. Grind it up and it has a very celery flavor, so that's what I use as a celery salt. I use the lovage seed instead, but you can also harvest the green. Wonderful in stock, wonderful in soups, and you might want to give that a try. There also are wonderful edible perennial herbs that do survive in zone 3 conditions. Chives, thyme, and oregano are also some great plants that do really well in these harsh zone 3 conditions. Now I'm going to move on to 2 different plant families. These are plants that you really should learn to love if you're going to live in these conditions, because they're gonna survive. So first I want to focus on the mustard family, also called the crucifer family. I'm positive I'm saying that incorrectly, but let's just call it mustards for now. That maybe would be easier. Mustards are more than just mustard seed. There are a huge range of plants, including the brassicas. And so there's a lot of these plants that actually can really, really thrive in these conditions. In fact, need to thrive in these conditions. There's a reason that Canada is one of the #1 crop growers of mustards in the world, and it's because those crops do well here. Obvious examples of the mustard family are mustard greens, which can then also develop into seed if you let them bolt. And yes, they do tend to be spicy, but you can find milder varieties. They tend to be really quick growing, and they can be lovely either raw or stir-fried. Then the wonderful radish. Radish is a member of this mustard family as well. Radishes are known for being speedy growers in these harsh conditions. But the other thing about radishes that most folks don't know is you don't just have to eat the bulb, the one bulb. If you like a single bulb, great, go ahead. But if you want to get more out of that plant, maybe try letting it bolt and eating the flowers and the seed pods. There's more videos about that, and I definitely will be talking about more of it in the season, but do consider growing some radishes for these cold conditions. The leaves are edible as well. They're a little fuzzy, they're not to my taste, but you can do things like dry them, or you can stir fry them. Now, a brassica that I find really should be more popular is broccolini, okay? It's a hybrid of broccoli and guyland. A lot of people struggle with growing broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage because of cabbage moths. So I find that when I'm dealing with broccolini, I don't have as many of those issues. And it just keeps producing. If you haven't tried it yet, I can't recommend it enough. It's got a beautiful sweet taste. The stems are delicious as well as the little tops. It's like getting a bunch of little single broccoli stalks. I've got a picture of some here. And it's delicious. I had to be convinced to grow it because I thought it was going to take up too much room in my garden. And now I love the stuff, and I'm going to grow it every year. And it keeps producing. It's one of those ones, it's almost like a cut and come again, but it's broccoli flavored instead of a lettuce. So do give that a try. Guyland is another wonderful, easy to grow, fast growing brassica crop. And bok choy also is another one of those fast growing greens that I would recommend that you try. And then we have arugula. Arugula is one of those things that it grows so fast that if you don't take care of it, it's going to overtake your garden. It's one of those crops that I plant first. I eat it quickly, plant a middle crop, and then I plant it again at the end of the season because it grows just so darn fast that I can get usually 2 crops on either end of the season. And that's a strategy you can use for a lot of these fast growing things like radishes, right? You might want to consider saving those for the shoulder season and growing your more heat-loving crops in the middle of your season. And then obviously there's kale. This is also a member of this mustard family, and it's a really great crop for things that are being cold hardy. Some people don't even harvest their kale until after frost because it actually tastes sweeter and it benefits from the cold. So it's a good idea to focus on some of those things when you live somewhere like this, right? Then we have members of the Amaranth family. There's a lot of really fun plants in this group. So some of these plants might be unfamiliar to you, but they really are a great group to focus on. Most of these plants are very nutritious, as well as being abundant and easy to grow and harvest. My favorite member of the Amaranth family is Orash. I can't stop talking about it. There's other videos about it. It's an early cultivar that spinach came from, but this is a much better crop to grow here because it's frost resistant, drought resistant, and it also can tolerate intense heat when it does come on. So compared to spinach, which bolts the minute it gets any sunshine, Orash can be harvested throughout the season. And when it does bolt, it's still tasty. So if you haven't given that a try yet, I do recommend it. Beets. Beets are fantastic members of the Amaranth family. I love beets because they can tolerate a lot of cold, but you can eat the whole thing. A lot of people just focus on eating the root, but if you're careful and don't overpick, you can actually be picking those beet greens as that beet is growing. Obviously, you just want to pick a couple at a time, but it's almost like having a cut and come again green that you can then harvest a large bulb at the end of the season in the fall. So I love my beets. Honestly, I eat them practically every day because they also store well. In my home, we pick the greens and eat them fresh through the summertime. And then we basically eat the bulbs in the fall and store them to eat throughout the winter. So it's one of those crops that's going to provide your family all year with food. Swiss chard. Okay, I'm going to admit, beautiful, like gorgeous. I actually use them often in ornamental planters for clients and stuff, but it's still not my favorite. I will eat it with garlic butter because anything tastes good with garlic butter, right? But it's beautiful and it does well in zone 3 conditions. And then last of all, some of the herbs. Many of these herbs are actually ones that are wonderful for attracting your pollinators again. So they're good companion plants to put in your garden overall. Dill is a great companion plant, particularly for the things that are like the brassicas, because the hoverflies and the parasitic flies come and help to get rid of those and help to deal with some of the pests. It's also delicious, right? And then, and one that maybe you may not have heard of, but really thrives in these conditions is chervil. It also produces a nice flower that attracts all those lovely beneficial hoverflies and other kinds of pollinators. And it has a wonderful flavor that is used quite extensively in French cooking. So if you haven't tried chervil yet, do give that a go. Parsley does really well, very abundant. And another one that I like to grow extensively, and it's going to keep coming back no matter what I do, is my cilantro. It can bolt quickly, but the flowers are excellent for bringing in pollinators, and those seeds are coriander seed, which you can then use as a spice as well. I hope that was helpful. I hope it gets you thinking. I hope you maybe will think about growing some of these wonderful cold crop champions because they are delicious. It means you can extend your fresh eating season a little bit longer, spend less time at the grocery store, more time in your garden, and you can share that abundance with your community. Please do ask questions. I love to create content that is designed for what you want to hear. We will be announcing some lives that we're going to be doing soon, so keep your eye out for that. And as always, I hope you take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.